Now read this.
Hello and welcome back to Now Read This, the Chronicles of Prydain, Book 5, The High King, by Lloyd Alexander, Chapter 20, The Gift. They were home again. Gwydion had led the companions westward to the coast, where the golden ships waited. From there, with Cor proudly perched on the highest mast, the great vessels with their gleaming sails bore them to Avron harbour. Word of Aron's destruction had spread swiftly, and even as the companions disembarked, many Cantrev lords and their battle hosts gathered to follow the Sons of Dawn, to do homage to King Gwydion, and to cry greetings to the Comet folk and Terran wanderer. Gurgi unfurled what remained of the banner of the White Pig and raised it triumphantly. Yet Gwydion had been strangely silent, and Terran, as the little farm came into sight, felt more heartache than joy. The winter had broken, thawing earth had begun to stir, and the first hardly visible traces of green touched the hills like a faint mist. But Terran's eyes went to Cole's empty garden, and he grieved afresh for the stout grower of turnips, far distant in his lonely resting place. Dalbin hobbled out to greet them. The enchanter's face had grown even more deeply lined. His brow seemed fragile, the wrinkled skin almost transparent. Seeing him, Terran sensed that Dalbin already knew Cole would not return. Eilonwy ran to his outstretched arms. Terran, leaping from the back of Melonlas, strode after her. Cor flapped his wings and gabbled at the top of his voice. Fluda, Dolly, and Gurgi, who looked more than ever patchy and scraggly, hastened to add their greetings, attempting to tell Dalbin, all at the same time, what had befallen them. Hen Wen was squealing, grunting, and wheezing, and very nearly climbing over the bars of the pen. As Terran jumped into the enclosure to fling his arms about the delighted pig, he suddenly heard shrill squeakings, and his jaw dropped in surprise. Eilonwy, who had hurried to the enclosure, gave a joyful cry. "Piglets!" 6 small pigs, 5 white as Hen Wen and 1 black, stood squealing on their hind legs beside their mother. Hen Wen chuckled and grunted proudly. "We have had visitors," said Dalbin. "One of them a very handsome boar. During the winter, when there was much stirring among the forest creatures, he came seeking food and shelter, and found Caer Dalbin more to his liking than the woods. He is roaming about somewhere now, for he is still a little wild, and unused to so many new arrivals." "Great Belin!" cried Fluda. "7 oracular pigs! Terran, my friend, your tasks will be harder than they were in the hills of Bran Gared." Dalbin shook his head. "Sturdy and healthy they are, and as fine a litter as I have ever seen, but their powers are no greater than those of any other pig, which should be quite enough to satisfy them. Hen Wen's own gift began to fade when the letter stick shattered, and now is gone past recall. It is for the best. Such power is a heavy burden for men as well as pigs, and I dare say she is much happier now." For 2 days the companions rested, grateful and content to be together in the peacefulness of the little farm. The sky had never seemed clearer, filled with happier promise of spring or greater joy. King Smoit had arrived with his guard of honour, and through a night's feasting the cottage rang with merriment. Next day Dalbin summoned the companions to his chamber, where Gwydion and Taliesin already waited. He peered deeply and kindly at all gathered there, and when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "These have been days of welcome," he said, "but also days of farewell." A questioning murmur rose from the companions. Terran, with alarm, looked searchingly at Dalbin. Fluda, however, clapped a hand to his sword and exclaimed, "I knew it would be so. What task remains to be done? Have the Gwythaints returned? Is a band of huntsmen still abroad? Have no fears, a flam stands ready." Gwydion smiled sadly at the excited bard. "Not so, gallant friend. Like the huntsman, The Gwythaints have been destroyed, yet it is true, one task remains. The sons of Dawn, their kinsmen and kinswoman, must board the golden ships and set sail for the summer country, the land from which we came. Taran turned to Gwydion, as though he had not grasped the High King's words. How then? He quickly asked, not daring to believe he had heard aright. The sons of Dawn leave Prydain? Must you sail now? To what purpose? How soon shall you return? Shall you not first rejoice in your victory? Our victory is itself the reason for our voyage, Gwydion answered. This is a destiny long ago laid upon us. When the Lord of Annuvin shall be overcome, then must the sons of Dawn depart forever from Prydain. No, Eilonwy protested. Not now of all times. We cannot turn from this ancient destiny, Gwydion replied. King Fflewddur too must join us, for he is king to the House of Dawn. The bard's face filled with distress. Flam is grateful, he began, and under ordinary circumstances I should look forward to a sea voyage, but I'm quite content to stay in my own realm. Indeed, dreary though it is, I found myself rather missing it. Taliesin spoke then. It is not for you to choose, son of Godo, but know that the summer country is a fair land, fairer even than Prydain, and one where all heart's desires are granted. Leanne shall be with you, a new harp you shall have. I myself shall teach you the playing of it, and you shall learn all the lore of the bards. Your heart has always been the heart of a true bard, Fflewddur. Until now it was unready. Have you not given up that which you loved most for the sake of your companions? The harp that awaits you shall be all the more precious, and its strings shall never break. Know this too, Taliesin added. All men born must die, save those who dwell in the summer country. It is a land without strife or suffering, where even death itself is unknown. There is yet another destiny laid upon us, Dalvin said. As the sons of Dawn must return to their own land, so must there come an end to my own powers. I have long pondered the message Henwen's last letter stick might have given us. It is clear to me now why the ash rods shattered. They could not withstand such a prophecy, which could only have been this. Not only shall the flame of Dernwyn be quenched, and its power vanish, but all enchantments shall pass away, and men unaided guide their own destiny. I too voyage to the summer country, Dalvin continued. I do so with sorrow, but with even greater joy. I am an old man, and weary, and for me there shall be rest, and a laying down of burdens which have grown all too heavy upon my shoulders. Doli, alas, must return to the realm of the fair folk, and so must Kor, the enchanter went on. The wayposts are being abandoned. King Idelig will soon command the barring of all passages into his kingdom, just as Medwyn has already closed his valley forever to the race of men, allowing only the animals to find their way to him. Doli bowed his head. He snorted. It's about time to stop dealing with mortals. Only leads to trouble. Yes, I'll be glad enough to go back. I've had my fill of good old Doli this and good old Doli that, and good old Doli, would you mind turning invisible just once more? The dwarf strove to look as furious as he could, but there were tears in his bright red eyes. Even the Princess Eilonwy, daughter of Engerad, must voyage to the summer country, Dalvin said. So it must be, he went on, as Eilonwy gasped in disbelief. At Caer Calor, the princess gave up only the usage of her magical powers. They are still within her, as they have been handed down to all daughters of the House of Lear. Therefore must she depart. However, he went on quickly, before Eilonwy could interrupt, there are others who have well served the Sons of Dawn. Faithful Gurgi, Henwen too, in her own fashion, and Taran of Caer Dalbin. It is their reward that they may journey with us. Yes, yes, shouted Gurgi. All go to land of no sighings and no dyings. He bounded joyously and waved his arms in the air, shedding a good portion of what hair remained to him. Yes, oh yes, all together forever, and Gurgi too will find what he seeks, wisdom for his poor tender head. Terran's heart leapt as he cried out Eilonwy's name and hastened to the side of the princess to take her in his arms. We shall not part again. In the summer country we shall be wed. He stopped short. If that is your wish, if you will wed an assistant pig-keeper. Well, indeed, replied Eilonwy. I wondered if you'd ever get around to asking. Of course I will, and if you'd given half a thought to the question, you'd have already known my answer. Terran's head still spun from the enchanter's tidings, and he turned to Dalvin. Can this be true, that Eilonwy and I may voyage together? Dalvin said nothing for a moment, then he nodded. It is true. No greater gift lies in my power to grant. Glue snorted. That's all very well, bestowing never-ending life right and left, even on a pig, but no one's given a thought to me. Selfishness, lack of consideration, it's plain that if the fair folk mine hadn't come tumbling down, robbing me of my fortune, I might add, we'd have taken a different path. We'd never have gone to Mount Dragon. Dernwyn would never have been found, the cauldron-born never slain. For all his indignation, however, the former giant's brow puckered wretchedly, and his lips trembled. Go, by all means. Let me stay this ridiculous size. I assure you, when I was a giant. Yes, yes, Gurgi shouted. Whining Giant too has served, even as he says. It's not fair to leave him lone and lost in smallness, and in treasure house of evil Deathlord, when all rich treasures fall in flames, a life was saved from hot and hurtful blazings. Yes, even Glue has served, though all unwitting, Dalvin replied. His reward shall be no less than yours. In the summer country he may grow, if he so desires, to the stature of a man. But do you tell me, Dalvin said, looking sternly at Gurgi, that he saved your life? Gurgi hesitated a moment. Before he could answer, Glue quickly spoke. Of course he didn't, said the former giant. A life was saved, mine. If he hadn't pulled me out of the treasure house, I'd be no more than a cinder in a Nuvin. At least you've told the truth, giant, cried Fluda. Good for you. Great Belin, I think you've already grown a little taller. Gwydion stepped forward and gently put his hand on Terran's shoulder. Our time is soon upon us, he said quietly. In the morning we shall depart. Make ready, assistant pig-keeper. That night Terran drowsed fitfully. The joy that so lightened his heart had strangely flown, fluttering out of reach like a bird of brilliant plumage he could not lure back to his hand. Even thoughts of Eilonwy, of happiness awaiting them in the summer country, could not regain it. At last he rose from his pallet and stood uneasy by the chamber window. The campfires of the sons of dawn had burned to ashes. The full moon turned the sleeping fields to a sea of silver. From far beyond the hills a voice began to lift in song, faint but clear. Another joined it, then still others. Terran caught his breath. Only once, long ago in the Fairfolk realm, had he heard such singing. Now, more beautiful than he remembered, the song swelled in a long flood of melody, shimmering brighter than the moonbeams. Suddenly it ended. Terran cried out in sorrow, knowing he would never hear its like again. And perhaps in his own imaginings there echoed from every corner of the land the sound of heavy portals closing. "What? Sleepless, my chicken?" said a voice behind him. He turned quickly. Light filling the chamber dazzled him, but as his vision cleared, he saw 3 tall and slender figures, 2 garbed in robes of shifting colours, of white, gold, and flaming crimson, and 1 hooded in a cloak of glittering black. Gems sparkled in the tresses of the first. At the throat of the second hung a necklace of shining white beads. Terran saw their faces were calm, beautiful to heartbreak, and though the dark hood shadowed the features of the last, Terran knew she could be no less fair. "Sleepless and speechless too," said the middle figure. Tomorrow, poor dear, instead of dancing with joy, he'll be yawning." "Your voices, I know them well," Terence stammered, barely able to speak above a whisper. "But your faces, yes, once I have seen them a long time past, in the marshes of Morva. Yet you cannot be the same. Ordu, Orwen, and Orgok?" "Of course we are, my gosling," Ordu replied. "Though it's true, whenever you met us before, we were hardly at our best."
"But good enough for the purpose,"
Orgok muttered from the depths of a hood. Orwen giggled girlishly and toyed with her beads. "You mustn't think we look like ugly old hags all the time," she said. "Only when the circumstances seem to require it." "Why have you come?" Terran began, still baffled at the familiar tones of the enchantresses coming from such fair shapes. "Do you too journey to the summer country?" Ordu shook her head. "We are journeying, but not with you. Salt air makes Orgok queasy, though it's very likely the only thing that does. We travel to, well, anywhere. You might even say everywhere." "You shall see us no more, nor we of you," added Orwen, almost regretfully. "We shall miss you, as much, that is, as we can miss anyone. Orgok especially would have loved to, well, best not to dwell on that." Orgok gave a most ungentle snort. Ordu, meanwhile, had unfolded a length of brightly woven tapestry and held it out to Terran. "We came to bring you this, my duckling," she said. "Take it and pay no heed to Orgok's grumblings. She'll have to swallow her disappointment, for lack of anything better." "I have seen this on your loom," Terran said, more than a little distrustful. "Why do you offer it to me? I do not ask for it, nor can I pay for it." "It's yours by right, my Robin," answered Ordu. "It does come from our loom, if you insist on strictest detail, but it was really you who wove it." Puzzled, Terran looked more closely at the fabric, and saw it crowded with images of men and women, of warriors and battles, of birds and animals. "These," he murmured in wonder, "these are of my own life." "Of course," Ordu replied. "The pattern is of your choosing and always was." "My choosing?" Terran questioned. "Not yours? Yet I believed." He stopped and raised his eyes to Ordu. "Yes," he said slowly, "once I did believe the world went at your bidding. I see now it is not so. The strands of life are not woven by 3 hags, or even by 3 beautiful damsels. The pattern indeed was mine. But here," he added, frowning as he scanned the final portion of the fabric, where the weaving broke off and the threads fell unravelled, "here it is unfinished." "Naturally," said Ordu. "You must still choose the pattern, and so must each of you poor, perplexed fledglings, as long as threads remains to be woven." "But no longer do I see mine clearly," Terran cried. "No longer do I understand my own heart. Why does my grief shadow my joy? Tell me this much. Give me to know this, as one last boon." "Dear chicken," said Ordu, smiling sadly, "when, in truth, did we really give you anything?" Then they were gone. Hey, you want to buy something? You can check the description for my books and audiobooks. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.